welcome everybody who made it here. I said, couple of people already that for me it's the 10th time I'm here. At Athlon, very beautiful hotel. Everybody knows it here in Berlin. APS usually is always the end of year event where people get the best strategies, tactics of what's working in app marketing. And that used to be the case 10 years in a row. Back then, 10 years, retargeting was actually very new. And everybody was like, wow, that's really possible. And here we are now to just learn about what's working and what not. And usually, I think the app industry is so exciting because every year, the complete industry somehow changed. Things are not working how they used to work. So we always have some new stuff. And I'm super excited actually to be here together with Oğuz from Voodoo, who has been leading the whole UA part. Voodoo is I think specifically for the gaming nerds for you, and they've always set the trends, and everybody tried to copy them to do it as good. And we will learn a little bit more about that. We are actually recording that also. So there will be a podcast episode of the Apptivate Podcast. And for the first time, what we are doing right now, also to just make it very interactive, is we are defining the content of the podcast in real time. So just first from the audience here to understand where we would set the emphasis. Who is a game developer more interested in games, and who is non-games more interested in non-games? Because it might be a different setup. Games, raise your hand if games is the way to go. 400, 450 of and non-games. Well, it's is it almost 50-50?
I think we're skewed more towards apps,
non-games apps, right? Okay, good. Let's see. We will have some time, and then we can dig. And I think that it's also interesting to understand the differences and why there are actually differences. If it's all actually same inventory and things like that. But that's very cool. So my name is Pan. By the way, I'm a CEO and co-founder of Remerge, and that's also by the way, 10 years ago. That's where we were founded, and the APS here was one of our first events which we attended. Now we're here again with our lovely team that I see also here in this audience. And Oz, tell us more about you. I'm not sure if everybody knows you here. How many times have you been here in Athlon?
Athlon itself, I think this is the first time.
First time.
But APS for the second time.
Okay.
I think right now. But it's always surprising how active the conference is.
Yeah, they said first it was only the main area, that was the only thing, and now we are 3 floors everywhere. You see so many people. Nobody knows where to go if you are not familiar with this setup here. But yeah, it's very exciting. Tell us a bit more about you, about Voodoo, maybe also for the ones who haven't or don't know the details or what Voodoo is up to right now.
So I'm Oz. I'm leading the growth team for some of the titles at Voodoo, and I've been with the company for 3 years, a little over 3 years not right now, and in the industry I think a little over 7 years or so. Before this, I was with the Stillfront group, in the past 3 years or so, we've been trying to ramp up the progression from hyper casual into more of the casual titles, or hybrid casual titles as we call them recently. And it's been a great ride so far, and it's still exciting, and I think it will keep being like this for a while.
Yeah, so we asked at the beginning, okay, focus more on non-games, focus more on games. So Voodoo, what you said, okay, starting hyper casual, going more to casual games. So why what's your background that you also understand non-games?
Yeah, so with the company, this has been part of the strategy for a very long time. We have Not only we have games, but we're also working on apps. We have a couple of apps that have been quite old at this point. I mean, not really old, but in terms of the industry that we live in. And I'm sure everybody heard of the recent purchase of Be Real. We also have a music app. A lot of people actually don't know about this. It's still something that's developing, but it's basically part of the strategy to diversify. So at this point, I'm not sure how correct it would be to call Voodoo a gaming company so much as a software company, a media company. So it's quite diversified.
Yeah, so in the end, you have like a portfolio of different apps. Just like, I think maybe just also high level to understand the strategy behind that it's going so broad, and also understanding like a little bit the underlying structure. So I guess you have like a lot of developers headquartered, I think, in Paris, right?
Yes, and that's correct.
Yeah, and they are then looking into different apps, go into that market. Is there also like regional-wise, like a specific core area, or you're looking globally?
I'm not very close to that side of the business, but I think there's no geographical focus in that sense. And we do have our own developers, but I know that we're also looking to publish apps much similar to the games business, and yeah, there's a whole different unit over there, and marketing wise as well. Although we're very, very close, there's a separate team that's actually looking after those apps.
Okay, and I guess like, and that's where we're coming, where it gets interesting, because the beauty of it, to have like so many different apps, different types of users, different customer groups. You can play around with a lot of UA budgets and see like, okay, how do you actually optimize that all towards growth, where you have like historically have always been like pretty strong at. Yeah, now we're talking and try to just like dig deeper into that area. So as we said, like, okay, let's try for the beginning to see, okay, a bit more targeted towards non-games, but maybe also outlining, okay, what might be the difference if it would be game specific. And I would start like, okay, the core framework, right? Tech setup. Okay, how do you do it? How do you navigate in the current market? And if there would be like some app developer here and would come to you and would ask for a growth strategy, okay, like what's kind of the go-to plan for setting up a tech framework?
Yeah. So the bedrock of the whole operation, from the product to marketing to everything else, is going to be how you set up your data structure and BI structure. And that's going to fall back down to what's your MMP, right? And as long as you have one, it doesn't really matter which one. There are multiple options to choose from. But over the years, I've talked to multiple app owners, app companies, and you'd be surprised how many of them actually don't use MMPs, but rather rely on either Firebase or what they see on Facebook, or try to carry this out on Google Analytics, etc. But really, you have to have one, because unless your users do not generate any kind of revenue after 3 days of installing or signing up or whatever, you do have to see your cohorts, and you do have to chart an LTV growth, and you need to do predictions. And this is everything else is going to be based on all of this. What's the retention? How does the LTV evolve over time? And that's going to dictate with what kind of CPIs you can buy users, how much you can spend, or what kind of campaigns you should run, or what kind of creatives that you should produce. And I think this is particularly important on the app side, just as well on the gaming side as well. But I think the average lifetime of a user, on average, I wouldn't want to generalize, is going to be longer on the app side, and perhaps with more interactions and more opportunities for upsells and everything else. So it's really important to set that up, and after setting that up, also configure all of the predictions, the BI infrastructure and everything else. And then you can build your marketing, creative operation, live ops, or whatever you may have.
Yeah. So that sounds like, okay, then technically I just choose an MMP, set everything up, because it also sounded like, okay, understanding LTV and everything. So it's, I mean, could I do it myself? Do I need like somebody who's an expert in that, or like how complex is it? Or can I just like take the standard framework they are offering maybe, or do I have to be careful with something?
Yeah. So in terms of setting up the MMP, I think all of the players in the space, they're making it quite straightforward, quite easy to integrate all of their SDKs into your app. And once you have that going on, you can do with just using the integrated reports and dashboards that those MMPs have. Some of them have better solutions. Some of them have not so good ones, but it's a point to start. But in terms of setting up all these predictions, the BI infrastructure, etc., if you're not really familiar with all of these topics and the science behind it, I think it's going to be better to either talk to someone. I'm sure there are plenty of consultants that do this, or maybe try to go for a out-of-the-box solution. I also know there are multiple options. I saw a couple of them downstairs, actually. That's going to give you, everything out of the box. So once you set up MMP, I wouldn't rush to immediately set up everything else, but you can use that in the meanwhile. And once you think you have enough sophistication, then you can take the next step. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, good. So I think to summarize that, it's also having like this data structure, so that you are not running like blind, and that you understand like, okay, whatever cent or euro or dollar you're putting into, that it's actually that you understand a bit the outcome of it. When we move now, okay, have that done, everything is good. What's the next step, like kind of best practice, how I should approach it, and what's working maybe based on your experience, and then like I could go from there.
Yeah, so from there on, depending on how much budget do you have for campaign spend, for creative production, and this also impacts the cash flow as well. I would start with a single channel, and then start testing, and then start producing creatives, and then see where that goes. Depending on the game or the app or the nature of it, Facebook is always a good option to start, and I'm sure 90% of the industry is already doing this. There's nothing wrong with starting Google as well. Again, especially if you're an app, maybe this might make more sense if there's some intentionality that you're looking for in the users. Ad networks could also be a good option, but again, this I think applies more so to gaming. But currently, we do see some of the players also moving to the app space, so that's also a valid option at this point. And immediately start testing different creatives, right? The players in gaming, and by players I mean industry players, they already know this very closely. But on the app side as well, arguably it is even more important and more powerful over there, because you can use the creative structure to add another targeting layer on top of what the campaigns are doing for you. You can customize different messaging for one audience type, another, depending on age, gender, or intention, or stuff like this. And then, because you have your MMP now and you can track creative performance across multiple different channels and campaigns, you can see, okay, where do I have the best return on ad spend? And then perhaps initially you may want to focus on that area in particular. Maybe we can touch on the creatives a little bit more in detail later, but it's also important that you keep a balance and you don't go like 100% one way.
Yeah, I would like also to break that down a little bit more. So you because you also started like, okay, there are good channels that are good to test out. Because I also think like, okay, if you go to Facebook, Meta, Google, the beauty of it is they are comparably easy, I guess, to sign up, set up. If you go towards networks or so, the bigger they get, usually it's a bit more tricky to like they don't all have like easy setup for self-service. So, and for you, like the next step is first, okay, understand so like if the flow is working, right? Your hypothesis, what you're doing, like, okay, I'm running marketing campaign, I can accelerate my growth, and are the metrics actually moving towards the right direction, how I said, right?
Yeah. So pretty much in all of the platforms, and especially if you're working with a new app or a new game, they're going to need more information from you. So I would expect whatever you're going to spend for the first couple of weeks, month, that you should consider this as a learning expense, so to say. Because number one, when you first start a campaign, especially on social platforms like Meta or Facebook, I keep calling them Facebook. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So like, I think everybody knows what you mean.
So the initial results, you shouldn't really make any long-term plans based on what you see there, because if you're seeing really too good results, it's very likely that you're hitting those golden cohorts, and they're likely not going to last very long, because by nature these platforms are looking for the most relevant, the most interested, the most of the people in their audience. So that's what they deliver to you first. But also, even if you're seeing non-favorable results, chances are you're going to be running install campaigns in the beginning. And these campaigns will never give you your best results. So again, I would stay away from making any kind of decisions to, kill the game or the app or scale it up, etc., during this initial phase, until you can start running some sort of value optimized campaigns, because this is where you're going to see the real potential of whatever app that you're running. So initially, we have to stay patient, basically, and then see how the cohorts evolve, what kind of users am I getting, and also the user interaction with your app or game is going to vary drastically, going from one campaign type to another, whether it's install or value optimized, or you're going for some sort of event optimization, and try different things. Keep an open mind, and keep in mind that the user metrics that you're seeing are mostly have to do with the campaigns, the kind of campaigns that you're running as well. And in this sense, this has been for a discussion for a very long time. To the topic of like how important is the CPI, right? And my point is CPI has never been critical, really, especially as a target, as a metric itself. Yes, of course, it is something that we need to keep an eye on. But all that matters at the end is what's the value that you're getting for every dollar that you spend. And like I said, this is going to change based on what creatives you're using, the campaign type, channel, etc. So, yeah.
Okay, and like specifically when we you also said, okay, depending on budget size, could you also like maybe do you have a formula to understand, okay, like how much budget would you need in order to get like this first month of like understanding if that's going to the right direction or not? Are we talking about, okay, 1K, 20K, 50K to just like on one channel first or like as a test? Or does it also depend maybe on the size of the app already? So if you're just like starting out, you don't have enough, like a lot of data or a lot of users, even like, okay, how helpful can it be? Do you need, are there some thresholds where what you would say or?
Yeah, so it's a very good question, and it's a very hard question to answer because it's going to depend on a lot of different variables as well. But at the end of the day, we do speak about spend, but what's really important is how many number of users you can generate. And that's going to depend on, what your product is the games, an app, what are you trying to do, how attractive you are to the users, meaning how low your CPI is, etc. So I think without going into the dollar amounts, you're going to need at least a couple thousand installs a month in your target demographic. Of course, there's no point in going to, to countries where the CPMs are cheaper to get, tens of thousands of installs when they're going to be irrelevant for you. That's, of course, out of the question. But yeah, it also depends on what kind of budgets, financial planning wise, you're working with. If you're constricted in that sense, you don't have to do this in a single month. Of course, you can try to space it out, but of course, the development is going to be slower. But you have what you have basically, and you have to make the best of it.
Okay, good. So we've done the first campaign. Everything looks good. I found a gold mine, and with my app, everything is great. So what's the then? I guess like okay, you have a good understanding. Like where to look at. So maybe also to make that specific, you said okay, CPI is a good like metric to look at to have an understanding. But I think like when we talk about optimization and have the feeling like okay, can I do better? Can I do more? So how would you steer it? What's like your recommendation for managing like that a campaign throughout that journey?
So in that sense, we're gonna have to go back to the BI infrastructure and specifically with LTV predictions because the numbers that you're going to see or the numbers that the channels that you're running these campaigns on are going to optimize those campaigns mostly based on earlier cohorts, maybe day 1, maybe 7. Maybe you can go all the way to day 28, but if your users, let's say, keep monetizing until month 12, month 18, then you really need to understand what your day 1 or day 7 return on ad spend ROAS needs to be in order to become even more competitive and spend even more, etc. So, and it's common that this might mislead some people, where like you may see on some campaigns really good like ROAS figures on day 7, let's say, but when you go one level deeper, it could be that past day 7 or day 14, those users don't really stick around. And this could be the case whether you have an app or a game, doesn't really matter. So in that case, you really have to be able to spot this and then see, okay, do I need to increase here or do I need to decrease? And after doing that, you need to go one level deeper and understand what's really causing this. Is it the campaign targeting? Is it my creatives? Is it something else in my app, game? And then try to address that. So determining what your day 1 or day 7 or day 14, whatever target has to be, then you can start optimizing your campaigns. But at the same time, again, it's very important to every optimization cycle to really understand if you see like significant movement in one way or another, to understand why that's happening, what's going on. And if you find that, let's say there's one creative that's really working good for you, then okay, you need to double down on that and then produce more and then try to spend more and then rinse and repeat forever.
Yeah, exactly. And now, let's dig deeper on that one. Because like you said already, okay, creative optimization is maybe like one key lever you have. How do you pursue that? And is it like, okay, are you comparing normal image creative with video, with something else? And or like, are you creating different videos, seeing like, are you changing the font or whatever? Like how detailed are you doing that? And then also the framework for that, like how do you test creatives then going forward?
Yeah, I think we can have a full other podcast just focusing on creatives. But briefly, and it's also worth prefacing that specifically for bigger channels and even more specifically for social channels, at the moment, creatives are, and especially in the beginning of your journey, creatives are the biggest levers that you can play with. Because everything else has become more or less fully automated. So then, in that sense, how do we need to look at this? So number one is going to be placements. I would evaluate placements, first of all, separately, and then when we bring them together, look at the placement level and then try to see where you have better performance. Do you have better performance with images, banners, or do you have better performance with vertical orientation videos or horizontal videos, or maybe you have playables that are bringing you better performance? Then you need to go in there. And then once you are in, and I'm not saying that you need to pick one and then like stick to it. It's healthy to have test some of each to periodically to make sure that you're covering all the bases. But then once you're in one of those placements, then what I would do is initially test radically different ideas. What I see sometimes, especially in smaller organizations, is the team starts testing or producing some creatives. They see moderate success with like one kind of concept, and then for the next 6 months, what they do is try to iterate on that process, and then try to like, if you do this, it's going to get this much better. If you do that, it's going to, yeah. If you're not seeing big success, you need to keep testing diverse ideas, diverse concepts. And if you're on the app side, maybe try to focus on different selling points, different intentions. But once you find a concept or an idea or an approach to a creative, then you can start getting into the iteration mode. And there, yes, the iterations start becoming smaller. Maybe you test a different headline, maybe you test a different color palette, and you would be surprised the amount of impact that a simple color palette iteration could make. And you can try different elements in the image or in the video, etc. So and it's important to keep this process continuous, and also keep in mind that based on where you are in this cycle, because there will be times where you're going to have hopefully creatives that are super successful, that where what you want to do is 80% of your time and resources and everything you want to spend iterating on those creatives, as long as they're successful. And the 20% you need to still testing more different radical ideas. And sometimes you're gonna have like nothing is really working, and in those times what you need to do is 80% of the time and your resources needs to be spent coming up with different concepts, test different placements, test different sizes, test different lengths, test different storylines. There are multiple different things. Do a lot of benchmarks, see what's working, etc. But what's important is knowing where you are in that cycle. Like, are you in the boom area where you have one or two creatives that are doing amazing, or are you in the bust area where nothing you do seems to work, which we all go through, and it's a normal part of the process. But that's I think, and it's also important how you test things. But that's
okay, good.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah. But I think like already it's super valuable to understand. So from my understanding, it's like two main concepts. You are saying like first, okay, don't look into change font or things, but look broader and have like a lot of different concepts that can touch, and then you figure out like a big bucket area where you then go all in when you see, okay, this one is like really going on like super fast, and do some couple iterations on a like more detailed ones in between to just like get the maximum out of it until you reach that cycle where it's supposedly not working out so much anymore. And then you start again like with this, okay, let's look broader again, see what's now going on in the market, the industry, what our customers like, and so on. And I think that's a flow. Also there, like again, maybe one understanding if I can do it by myself, or like how many creative designers or so do I need to have that support me in during that process?
Yeah, that's another good question. So in principle, you should look to produce as many creatives as you can. Mm-hmm. Whether this is you do this by working 20 hours a day, or you outsource this somewhere. So I would recommend trying to produce as much as you can. Mm-hmm. But if you're only able to do 5 videos a week, let's say, then so the lower your production volume is, I would argue the more diverse you need to keep your concepts and your creatives, basically. Because then again, like, once you find one kind of creative that works, then you can do better. And this is also going to depend on what the spend level is, right? So let's say if you're spending, if you're a brand new app, this is your first one, maybe you can only afford to spend, $100 a day or $50 a day or even less. Then, do what you can, but let's say that you're spending 10, 15, 20K a day. Yeah, then you need to prioritize this, you need to ramp it up, and then you need to really consider this as like a main pillar of your operation, because it really is.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thanks for this. Like now, maybe just also to cover that one, like a different tactic that can help in growth with retargeting, re-engagement. Like, how do you integrate that one in the journey, and when, like, what do you try to achieve with that?
Yeah. So this we started doing retargeting about a year ago, maybe earlier this year, actually. And this is definitely one of the highlights of the year for me, personally, anyway, because going into it, my thinking or assumption was, yeah, it's retargeting. Like, we already have all the users, like, we know who to target. We just need to find where they are, bid, responsibly, and then try to acquire them back. But it's actually quite more complicated because, number one, you need to have a decent pool of churned users to do this, number one. Number two, what is a churned user, right? That is an important and big enough question in itself, because there will be some users who churn out, but then without you doing anything, they might come back, right? The percentage of this happening, depending on the app and the game, as always, but it's not all that high. Still, you don't want to pay to bring someone back if they are going to come back on their own accord. So after which point, is it 7 days? Is it 1 day? Is it 30 days? So you need to run an analysis to see, okay, what's the time period where my cannibalization into the people who are going to organically come back is the lowest. So one way to do this, the easiest way to do this, is to set the longest time possible. But that also doesn't really work in an ideal sense, because the longer that you wait after a person stopped using your app, your game, the harder it is to bring them back, whether you expect them to do that organically or with any kind of retargeting campaign. This we saw firsthand for sure. And once you do that, another question is going to be how to segment them, how to target them. And the creative topic for retargeting is going to be pretty much completely different. Still the same framework, but you're going to need different messaging. Maybe you need to give out some sort of rewards, some sort of incentives for these people to come back. Maybe you don't. And this is something, again, you have to test, because you don't want to give people free stuff when you don't have to. And even after you do all of that, it's still going to be, yeah, okay, how are these people going to interact with the app or the game a second time? Can you expect the same LTV curve from these guys as they did the first time around? Or do you need to come up with a specific second one? That's another point of analysis to understand and see. And even after you did all of that, what are you going to do when they churn again, right? Do you keep track of how many times they churned and then try to implement a logic to do this? Because maybe the second time, the first time they come back, okay, everything's good. The second time they come back, everything's still good. Maybe the third time they come back and then they leave after 3 days. Not good. So you need to know this. And assume everything is working amazing, everything's working great. What are you going to do if you want to scale this operation up and you want to add a second channel, a third channel? How are you going to make sure that you're not doing some sort of cannibalization where multiple different partners are bidding on the same user, on the same advertising opportunity? It is very, 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 very complex, as I found out, but it is possible. With the right partners, of course, and it is a viable way to keep the growth or to keep the active users of your app, of your game, 100%. But again, until you have a mass of churned users already, obviously, when you don't have anybody to retarget, you don't have anybody to retarget. So yeah, I hope this wasn't too long of an answer. I guess this would be
it's a good start. It's a good start.
Yeah.
But it's like interesting that you just like started out 1 year or like this year to test it out and see how that can improve the metrics for the different apps. But that it's like how to. I think exactly what you said. The your experience, how to integrate this in this whole suite of what you can do is something to look at. But like ultimately, I think that's the important part. Okay, if that helps you just like getting more successful and reach your goals, that's the best. Yes. Yeah, I get already like people already screaming that that we should start with the second part of our podcast. No, yeah. So we are over time, I guess, or should we? Yeah. Okay. Good. Then thank you so much for sharing all your insights of your experience. Thank you, everybody, for listening.